Our next session is going to tackle big ideas, big as in obesity, big as in energy, and big as in the land, conservation. And we have three top individuals who are going to talk for about 16, 17 minutes each and give you the benefit of their thoughts and their vision of how we can make this a better planet and a better world. Our first speaker, talking, now that you're back from your snack break, I hope you had some nice pastries. We're going to talk about, and a nice sugary soda. Mayor Bloomberg, he's taking care of him up there. David Jones is chairman and managing director of Chrysalis Ventures, which he founded in 1993. Chrysalis invests in innovative young companies in healthcare, technology, and education. From 2005 to 2010, David chaired the board of directors of Humana, a $40 billion healthcare company, and during his tenure, it nearly tripled in size. He continues to serve on the company's board and its executive committee, and he recently put his sort of self where his heart is. He took the brave step of standing for and winning successfully an election to the Jefferson County Public Schools. He is on the school board, and if any of you have ever done that, you know that it is a full-time and very demanding job. It's the Jefferson County Public Schools in Louisville, the 20th largest school system in the country. Obviously, he is a glutton for punishment. David is also a triathlete who medaled in the 2009 U.S. Senior Games. Please welcome to the stage, David. There's your iPad.
All right. Thank you, Tyler, and thank you to all of you for being here. This is a wonderful opportunity, I think, for all of us to imagine solutions to big problems, to share them, and to really think together. So we've had a pretty inspiring morning so far. I'm going to maybe bring it down a little bit now. I'm going to talk about how we will reverse the epidemic of childhood obesity that is sweeping our nation. This is going to be a hard talk. It'll start as kind of a downer, and I promise you it'll get better. But obesity is difficult to talk about. Unlike drug abuse or smoking or the other things that hurt our health, all of us eat, and all of us have strong emotional connections to food. And I think all of us feel a little bit defensive or maybe even demeaned when somebody stands up and lectures us about how we should be eating. And I'm acutely aware of that and apologize in advance for any offense that I give, but it's a really important problem. The second important preliminary point is I bring kind of a weird perspective. As Tyler said, I'm a venture capitalist, which means I'm a professional optimist. I'm also a health insurance guy, which means I live in the world of actuarial prediction that has a kind of a sorry way of coming true about people's health. And the third thing is I am now, for the last 5 weeks, a member of the school board, which means I confront daily the pathologies that are really besetting a lot of our children. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And I am going to talk to you first for a couple minutes about the problem, the scope of the problem, then we'll jump into the diagnosis, and then I promise it'll get more upbeat when we talk about the cure. Oh yeah, and I have a clicker here. All right, I think all of you are probably pretty familiar with the stats. Today, 1/3 of America's children are obese or overweight, and the rates of overweight and obese have been growing very quickly. They've tripled in just a generation. That's a problem for two reasons. First of all, a lot of children are sick, and the sicknesses are very serious. 1/3 of obese kids have at least one indication of future heart disease, and an increasing and terrifying number are getting adult onset or type 2 diabetes, which means they're at great risk of going blind, of having their feet amputated, and likely to die 10 years before their peers. So the first problem with this epidemic is kids are suffering. But the second problem is a problem for our nation, which is the habits we learn as kids stick with us. And the diseases that you see on the slide are ones that are growing as they're picked up in childhood. In the future, according to the CDC's estimate, roughly a third of Americans who are born in 2013 are going to develop diabetes at some time in their lifetime. And that is a catastrophe for all of us. So being chubby, to my astonishment as a parent, is actually worse for you than being a smoker. If you develop obesity and these diseases, it'll take more time off your life. And I had no idea about that when my kids were born. So the way we feed our kids is a disaster. We're killing our children, quite literally. Now, Sandy Hook and the catastrophe of gun violence is unimaginably sad. And it feels kind of ridiculous to talk in a cold actuarial way. But mathematically, we take far more years off our children's lives by the way we feed them than the most insane gunman could ever even conceive. So we've got to do something about this. Now, it's possible that some people would say, gee, that's sad, but I can't do anything about it. Kids do all kinds of dumb things. Why should we pay attention to this? Well, in cold financial terms, the cost of the diseases that are caused by obesity is about 20% of our $2.7 trillion medical expenditure in the United States, or $500 billion a year. It's not just bad for kids. It's bad for all of us. How does it affect you? Well, it affects you as a taxpayer, for sure, through increased Medicare and Medicaid spending, through increased insurance premiums for the companies that you work for or own stock in. It affects you through workforce absenteeism and reduced productivity. And increasingly, it affects all of us through reduced national security. Today, less than 1/4 of American youth aged 17 to 24 qualify to serve in the Army. And the biggest single reason for disqualification is obesity. They're too fat to be gotten into shape during basic training. And that, in this dangerous world, I submit, is a very serious problem. So, unless we do something about this, we're not just hurting our children, we're hurting our nation. So let's step back for a minute and ask how we get here. Is this a story of mass evil and conspiracy? Not at all. The way we got to this problem was through the successful solution to humanity's biggest challenge across the entire scope of our existence, which was, how do we feed ourselves? How on earth do we get enough calories for everybody who's alive? At the end of the Depression in 1936, malnutrition, meaning hunger, was our biggest national health problem. 1/4 of the draftees at the beginning of World War II were rejected because they were malnourished, almost starving. That's unbelievable. In the intervening years, we've conquered the problem of not only access to calories, but cleanliness of food. Some of you in the audience may remember driving across country before McDonald's and fast food restaurants existed. And you know, the idea that Montezuma's revenge was just a foreign country problem was not accurate. I mean, it was dangerous to eat in places. Fast food brought us clean, safe food in the near term. But the cheap and easy calories, the curing of this previous problem, has been a catastrophe for today's children. And let me introduce you here to Timmy. Timmy is a hypothetical kid, and I'm just going to walk through his day, which is typical of a lot of American children these days. Timmy gets up, and he has Pop-Tarts and a Coke for breakfast. Or maybe he has orange juice, thinking that it's healthy, but actually it has just as many calories as a Coke. He goes on and eats at school. He eats a snack after school. He has dinner. His mom's still working, so his sister takes care of getting a quick meal that they can manage. And then he has Cheetos and a soda before he goes to bed. He's health conscious. His mom has told him, don't drink Coke at night because it'll keep you up So he has a Sprite, all right? So that's Timmy's world. And Timmy has just ingested 3,600 calories. To put that in perspective, America's Olympic gymnasts in this past Olympics, you remember Gabby Douglas and the fantastic athletes we've got out there? According to the US Olympic Committee, their training table feeds them 2,000 to 2,500 calories per day. At 3,600, Timmy cannot conquer his intake by burning the calories off. And I love what Michelle Obama is doing in terms of raising the profile of childhood obesity and bringing attention to this issue. But the Let's Move campaign suffers from a very fundamental flaw, which is you can't exercise all of this food away. This is a problem of food intake, not one conquerable simply by exercise. So that's where we are. That's how we got here. Whoops, that's Timmy's intake. So what do? How do we stop the cycle? It's pretty straightforward. We have to educate our children, and we have to raise the price of calories. We'll start with education, and that's really, in some ways, both the hard part and the obvious part. Over the last couple of decades, as we focused on high-stakes testing and trying to figure out how to reform our education system, we've taken a lot of things out. One of them is home economics. I mean, schools used to teach girls how to prepare an affordable, healthy meal for a family and how to shop. Now, there are a lot of problems with that model, the biggest one being that only girls got this education. But today, nobody gets this education. And we have a generation of parents who've grown up without that education, and they don't have a clue how to cook or how to shop, how to buy foods in bulk and break them down and prepare healthy meals out of them. So the first thing we have to do is we have to bring food education back into the schools. There's no other choice. I mean, the families don't know how to do it. So the schools have to be our solution. We have to also demand that the schools serve healthy food and that they measure and report on the health status of the students in the same way we're pushing them to report on academic success. The good news from my 5-week experience so far on the Louisville Public School Board is that this is not a radical idea. This is already accepted dogma in the Nutrition Services Department, and they are working their tails off to figure out how to do all this stuff. They don't have an answer yet, but they know that this has to happen. But without a change in the outside culture, the schools can't do it alone. We have got to change the price of calories. And by changing the price of calories, I mean address the fact that processed food is cheaper and more convenient than healthy raw vegetables, grains, things that you have to cook yourselves. Now, how do we do that? Fortunately, we have a very good playbook from the tobacco wars, and we have a couple of additional tools that are even more exciting. The tobacco playbook is pretty straightforward. The first thing you do to change the price of something that you want less of is you tax it. And we taxed cigarettes eventually to pretty good effect. A penny per ounce on sugary drinks would yield about $20 billion a year. And if it could find its way through the political process to the right spot, that would pay for a lot of education or a lot of subsidies for leafy green vegetables or whatever we want people to eat. So taxing is one page from the tobacco playbook. The next page is to focus on the social cost, not the economic cost of the undesirable habit. And that is by stigmatizing bad eating. Now, I said at the beginning that food is different, and the messages are going to be different than they were in tobacco. We've pushed smokers out into the cold and into the rain, and we've basically exorcised them from a lot of the non-smoking world. And we can't do that with food. We can't blame people for being fat and make them feel terrible, because that doesn't work. The emotional attachments are too strong. But we've got to turn our creative juices loose on expressing the message that we're all in this together and we need to have a healthier society. The third thing that we can recognize, and it's already happening, is that the lawyers are coming to the food companies. Just as in tobacco, once the lawyers got into the files and got a hold of the memos that said that the tobacco companies knew their product was addictive, knew that it caused illness, the judgments started to flow. The same thing is going to happen because the chemists who put the right combination of salt and sugar and fat together to keep us coming back for ever larger portions, they've got the memos in their files. They know their products are addictive. They know that they cause damage long term. And you're already seeing the change in the way Coke, Walmart, Pepsi, big food companies are very much beginning to get with the bandwagon that they have to change. So the playbook from the tobacco wars is relevant to what we're doing here. But the even better news is we've got two big different tools for food. One is that we already pay for a lot of unhealthy food. Through free lunches at schools, in my school district, 64% of the kids get free lunch. A bunch of them get free breakfast. And a lot of them get food put in their backpack to take home for the weekend. Now, the social problems that underlie that are a big problem for education. But the fact that we feed the kids means we've got a lot of infrastructure to change the way we feed them. Similarly, 24 million approximately children get their food paid for by food stamps. There's no reason that free lunches and food stamps have to pay for junk food. They can pay for healthy food. The last new point is probably the one that I'm most excited about, because to change the relative price of calories, we have an amazing new tool, and it's one that people have already been talking about in the media session. The tool's got two pieces. One is the smartphone. All of you all have it probably with you today, or could if you choose to. And within a couple years, everybody's going to have it. The prices are falling. Even poor kids are going to have smartphones that connect them to everything. The other piece is universal health insurance. If Obamacare succeeds in signing up 30 million new people, practically everybody in America is going to have a premium paid either by them or on their behalf that reflects the future cost of their health. And when you put those two things together, the opportunity comes into fore for the entity that owns the premium, that holds the premium, the health insurance company, Medicare or Medicaid, to pay ahead of time to avoid future costs. And if you want to get people to choose these beautiful vegetables here, instead of the Cokes and Twinkies and stuff on the inside, couponing or changing the premium that you pay out of your paycheck are both coming to change the price of calories at the moment you buy them. I can see a day in the next few years when kids who choose to eat well will actually get bonused by their insurance company for being peer leaders, for doing that sort of thing. And that is a very exciting opportunity brought on by the ubiquitous connectivity that's changing our lives in so many ways. So let me end with a call to action. Our kids need help. The problem can be fixed through education and through changing the price of calories, but it's going to be a hard fight because it's always hard to change the status quo. We need your support as voters. You need to demand change from schools, from government, as shareholders and board members. And I think there probably are people in this room who are in power positions related to companies. And I don't just mean food companies. If you're involved with a food company, encourage them to get in front of the train rather than get flattened by it. But all companies can buy benefit plan designs that encourage health, encourage healthy eating and reward it, and help people change away from it. And then the last way we need your help is as parents or grandparents, because kids don't know what to do. They learn from people around them. So one thing to do is model healthy behavior. Serve water, okay? Serve vegetables, serve fruits, all that good stuff. But the other thing, and to kind of end on a little bit deeper note, is we need to model a different way of loving each other. You know, the traditional way of showing love for a child was to take food. The biggest sacrifice that a parent or grandparent could do would be to take food off their plate and give it to the kid when there wasn't enough to go around. We don't know how to behave in an era of plentiful, free calories. And the grandparents and the parents have to figure out how to show love in this new age. It's not true that all you need is love, but what you need to begin this battle is love. So thank you.
All right. That was terrific.
Really fun.
Thank you.